The very fact that you are here tonight suggests that something within you knows there is more. Something in you recognizes that the state of consciousness in which you dwell is not the final chapter of your story. And you are absolutely right. For no state is final unless you decree it to be so. The magnificent truth I wish to share with you tonight is that freedom, complete and total freedom, is your natural inheritance. It is the fundamental reality of your being. And the path to claiming this freedom is not outside of you, but within the divine operation of your own wonderful human imagination. Let me share with you a profound truth that changed my life and has transformed the lives of countless others who have tested it and found it to be the one grand law of life. Consciousness is the one and only reality. Everything that you perceive, everything that makes up your world, is nothing more than your consciousness pushed out. The world that seems to hold you captive is but a reflection of your own states of consciousness made visible. The prison that appears to constrain you exists nowhere but in your own imagination. When you truly grasp this principle, not merely intellectually, but in the very depths of your being, you will understand that the key to your freedom has been in your possession all along. For if consciousness is the only reality, and your world is simply consciousness objectified, then to change your world, you need only change your consciousness. This is the divine art of assumption. By assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you can transform the shadow world of limitation into the substance of freedom. Many people come to me and say, Neville, I understand these principles. I grasp them intellectually, but still I feel stuck. I cannot seem to break free from my circumstances. And to this I reply, the feeling of being stuck persists because you have not yet made real to yourself the truth that you are pure consciousness, pure awareness, and that this consciousness is the only reality. You have not fully accepted that the world and all its circumstances are mere reflections, mere shadows of your own magnificent inner states. Consider for a moment what it means to be stuck. To be stuck implies that there is something external to you, something outside of your control, that is restraining your movement, limiting your options, confining your existence. But I tell you with absolute certainty, there is nothing outside of consciousness. There is nothing external to you, for you are consciousness, and consciousness is all there is. The walls you perceive around you, the limitations you feel so acutely, exist only because you have granted them reality in your consciousness. Tonight I invite you to make a revolutionary discovery. You are not stuck because of external circumstances. You are experiencing the state of being stuck because you are dwelling in that state in consciousness. And just as you can enter a state, you can exit it. Just as you can assume one state of consciousness, you can assume another. This is the miracle of your being, the power to choose the state in which you will dwell. Let me share with you a simple yet profound practice that will begin to dissolve the illusion of being stuck. Right now, wherever you are, close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath and relax your body completely. Now, in your imagination, see yourself as you would be if you were completely free. Feel the feeling of that freedom. What would it feel like to move without restriction? How would you carry yourself if all limitations were gone? What thoughts would fill your mind if you knew yourself to be absolutely free? Dwell in this state. Saturate yourself with the feeling of freedom. Make it so real, so vivid, that for a moment you forget the old state of being stuck. In that moment of complete absorption in the state of freedom, you have planted a seed in the fertile soil of your consciousness, and what you plant must grow. What you assume must become. But perhaps you're thinking, I've tried this before, and nothing changed. To this I would remind you of a principle I often emphasize. The time track is a device of the human mind. In the realm of consciousness, in the realm of true causation, there is no time. The seed planted in consciousness will blossom in your world when the conditions are ripe, when the bridge of incidents has been crossed. Your role is not to make the seed grow. Your role is not to force the manifestation. Your role is simply to plant the seed through the art of assumption and to remain faithful to that assumption despite all evidence to the contrary. For remember, the evidence of your senses only tells you what is, it cannot tell you what will be. And what will be is determined not by what is, but by the state you occupy in consciousness. In my own life, I have tested this law countless times, and it has never failed me. I recall a time when I felt completely constrained by financial limitations. All the evidence of my senses told me that I was trapped in poverty, that there was no way out. But instead of accepting this as my final state, I began to assume the feeling of wealth and abundance. I would fall asleep each night feeling the joy and relief of financial freedom. I would walk through my days carrying myself as one who was abundantly supplied. I did not deny the facts of my current situation, but I refused to give them power over my consciousness. And then seemingly out of nowhere, opportunities began to present themselves. Doors began to open that I could not have anticipated. People entered my life bearing gifts that aligned perfectly with my needs. The bridge of incidents formed itself, leading me from the state of financial constraint to the state of abundance I had assumed in consciousness. This is the law that governs all manifestation. Consciousness is the only reality, and what you experience in the outer world is simply consciousness objectified. Therefore, to change your experience, you must change your consciousness. But changing consciousness is not a matter of positive thinking or wishful hoping. It is not about affirming affirmations or repeating mantras. It is about entering so completely into the state of your wish fulfilled that you temporarily forget all other states. It is about making your desired state so vivid, so real in your imagination that it displaces your awareness of the unwanted state. Let me offer you a practical approach to this divine art of assumption. Tonight, when you retire to sleep, lie upon your bed and relax your body completely. Then, in your imagination, construct a scene that would imply your freedom from whatever condition has made you feel stuck. Make this scene as vivid and as real as you possibly can. For instance, if you feel stuck in a job that drains your energy and stifles your creativity, imagine a conversation with a friend in which you share your excitement about your new position, one that fulfills you and allows your talents to flourish. Hear your friend's congratulations. Feel the handshake or the embrace. Experience the relief and joy of having transcended the old limitation. Or perhaps you feel stuck in a relationship pattern that brings you pain. Imagine instead a conversation in which you describe to a trusted friend the wonderful harmony and love you now experience. Feel the satisfaction of having moved beyond the old pattern into a new state of mutual respect and affection. Whatever the specific circumstance that has made you feel stuck, create a scene that would naturally follow if you were now free from that limitation. Enter fully into this imaginal scene. Make it so real that for a brief time you forget you are imagining. Feel the feelings that the fulfilled wish would bring. Then, carrying this feeling, drift off to sleep. In doing this, you are planting the seed of your fertile in the fertile soil of consciousness. You are impressing upon the subconscious mind, which knows no limitations and possesses the power to transform your world, the reality of your wish fulfilled. And what is impressed upon the subconscious must be expressed in your world. Some of you may wonder, how long must I persist in this practice before I see results? The answer is you persist until the feeling of your wish fulfilled becomes more real to you than the feeling of being stuck. You persist until you have displaced the old state completely and dwell naturally in the new state. For some, this displacement may occur in a single night of profound imagining. For others, it may require repeated sessions of entering the state of the wish fulfilled. But know this, the law is infallible. What you assume you must become. What you impress upon consciousness, consciousness must express. Remember, time is a construct of the human mind. In the realm of true causation, the realm of consciousness, there is no time. The seed planted today may flower tomorrow, or next week, or next month. Your task is not to set the timetable for manifestation. Your task is simply to plant the seed with conviction and to tend it with fidelity to your assumption. Now, I understand that for many of you, the feeling of being stuck has persisted for so long that it seems like an unchangeable fact of your existence. Perhaps you've tried various methods to break free: positive thinking, goal setting, seeking advice from experts, and still the walls remain. This persistent experience can make it difficult to believe that freedom is truly possible for you. But I ask you to consider this. The very fact that you can conceive of freedom proves that it exists within your consciousness. And if it exists within your consciousness, it can be made manifest in your world. For consciousness is the only reality, and what exists in consciousness must, by the law of assumption, be expressed in experience. The Bible, when properly understood as a psychological drama, rather than a historical document, reveals this truth. When the psalmist says, "He brought me forth also into a large place, he delivered me, because he delighted in me," he is describing the movement from a state of confinement to a state of freedom that occurs when one delights in or fully occupies a new state of consciousness. And in Isaiah we read, "Enlarge the place of thy tent, and let them stretch forth the curtains of thine habitation, spare not, lengthen thy cords and strengthen thy stakes." This is not a command to physically expand one's dwelling. It is an invitation to expand consciousness, to move beyond the limited state in which one has been dwelling and to occupy a larger, more expansive state. This expansion of consciousness is the true meaning of freedom. It is not merely freedom from external constraints, though that will follow, but freedom from the limited concepts, self and world, that have kept you bound to unwanted conditions. Consider the story of the Exodus, which is often read as a historical account of the Israelites' liberation from slavery in Egypt. But on a deeper level, it is the story of consciousness liberating itself from the bondage of limiting beliefs and assumptions. Egypt represents the state of limitation, the state of being stuck. And the journey to the promised land represents the movement of consciousness from limitation to freedom. But note well, before the Israelites could physically leave Egypt, they had to leave it in consciousness. They had to believe in the possibility of freedom before freedom could become their experience. This is the pattern of all liberation, first in consciousness, then in manifestation. So tonight, I invite you to begin your exodus from the Egypt of limitation. I invite you to cross the Red Sea of impossibility and to enter the wilderness of transformation, trusting that the promised land of your freedom awaits you. But how does one begin this journey? How does one take the first step toward freedom when feeling so completely stuck? The answer lies in the art of revision, the practice of mentally rewriting the events of your day to align with the state you wish to occupy. Each night, before you enter into the state of your wish fulfilled as you fall asleep, take a few moments to review the events of your day. Identify moments when you felt particularly stuck, when the walls seemed especially confining. Now in your imagination, rewrite these events. See them unfolding differently. Feel how you would have felt if, in those moments, you had experienced freedom rather than limitation. For instance, if during the day you had a conversation in which you felt small and powerless, revise that conversation. In your imagination, see yourself speaking with confidence and authority. Feel the satisfaction of expressing yourself fully and being received with respect. Or if you encountered a circumstance that seemed to confirm your state of being stuck, revise that circumstance. See it unfolding in a way that confirms your freedom instead. This practice of revision serves two powerful purposes. First, it prevents the accumulation of impressions that would reinforce the unwanted state. By revising the events of your day, you are ensuring that your subconscious is not being continually impressed with the feeling of being stuck. Second, it actively impresses upon the subconscious the feeling of the state you wish to occupy, the state of freedom. Over time, this practice will transform your habitual state of consciousness. And as your consciousness transforms, so must your world transform, for your world is nothing more than your consciousness objectified. But perhaps the most challenging aspect of this practice is maintaining fidelity to your new assumption in the face of persisting evidence to the contrary. The world, being a shadow of past states of consciousness, will for a time continue to reflect the old state, even as you begin to dwell in the new. This persistence of the old reality can test your faith in the law, tempting you to abandon your assumption and return to the familiar, if unwanted, state of being stuck. This is why I emphasize the importance of dwelling in the state of the wish fulfilled with such intensity, such completeness, that for those moments at least, the old state is entirely forgotten. For it is in these moments of complete absorption in the new state that the most powerful impressions are made upon the subconscious. I recall a student of mine who had been confined to a wheelchair for many years following an accident. All medical opinion confirmed that his condition was permanent. Yet night after night, he would enter into the state of being whole and active. In his imagination, he would dance, run, climb stairs with ease. He would feel the strength in his legs, the freedom of movement, the joy of physical activity. For months, there was no visible change in his condition. The evidence of his senses continued to testify to his limitation, but he remained faithful to his assumption. He continued to revise his days, replacing moments of limitation with imaginal experiences of freedom. He continued to fall asleep each night in the state of his wish fulfilled. And then, gradually, things began to change. Sensation began to return to parts of his body that had been numb. Small movements became possible where there had been none. Medical professionals were baffled but confirmed the changes. And over time, through what they called a miraculous recovery, he regained the full use of his body. Was this a miracle in the supernatural sense? No. It was the natural operation of the law of consciousness. He had so completely revised his concept of himself, so thoroughly impressed upon the subconscious the state of being whole and free, that the subconscious had no choice but to express this new concept in his physical experience. This same law operates in every sphere of your life. Whether you feel stuck in health, in wealth, in relationships, in career, the way out is to say, you must revise your concept of self. You must exchange your limited self-concept for an expanded one. And you must do this not merely as an intellectual exercise, but as a vivid, feelingful experience in imagination. For imagination is not, as many suppose, a faculty for daydreaming or escapism. Imagination is nothing less than consciousness itself in its creative aspect. It is the God power within you, the I am clothed in the specific forms of your assumptions. When you say, I am stuck, you are not merely describing your condition, you are invoking the creative power of the I am to produce and sustain that condition. And when you say, I am free, you are invoking that same power to produce and sustain freedom. The I am in you will become whatever you attach to it through feeling. This is why feelings are so crucial in the law of assumption. It is not enough to intellectually understand that you are not truly stuck, that the limitations you perceive are illusions of consciousness. You must feel your freedom. You must experience it so vividly in imagination that the feeling of being stuck is displaced completely, if only for a moment. Some may argue, but Neville, the circumstances that make me feel stuck are real. They are not merely in my imagination. To this I would reply, yes, the circumstances appear real because they are the objectification of previous states of consciousness. They are the shadow cast by the light of consciousness. But shadows, no matter how dark they appear, cannot persist in the presence of light. When you shift your consciousness from the state of being stuck to the state of being free, you are turning on the light. And though the shadow may not disappear instantly, it must eventually give way to the light. For that is the law of consciousness. I invite you to test this law for yourself. Do not take my word for it. Do not believe it merely because it appeals to you intellectually. Test it in the laboratory of your own life. Apply the principles I have shared with you tonight to some area where you feel stuck and observe the results with the detachment of a scientist. Begin tonight. When you retire to sleep, revise the events of your day that reinforce the feeling of being stuck. Then enter fully into a scene that implies your freedom. Make it vivid. Feel it deeply. Carry this feeling as you drift off to sleep. Do this night after night and watch how your world begins to transform. Notice how opportunities appear that were not there before. Observe how circumstances rearrange themselves to accommodate your new state of consciousness. Marvel at the bridge of incidents that forms itself, leading you from the state of being stuck to the state of freedom you have assumed in consciousness. But a word of caution, do not look for signs too eagerly in the beginning. Do not dig up the seed to see if it is growing. Allow the law to operate in its own time and in its own way. Your role is to plant the seed through assumption and to nurture it through fidelity to that assumption. The law will take care of the manifestation. I am reminded of a beautiful passage from Ecclesiastes. In the morning sow thy seed, and in the evening withhold not thine hand, for thou knowest not whether shall prosper, either this or that, or whether they both shall be alike good. Sow the seed of your assumption in the morning of your consciousness, and sow it again in the evening. Do not try to determine which particular act of sowing will produce the harvest. Trust the Lord to bring forth the manifestation in its own perfect time. There is another aspect of the feeling of being stuck that I wish to address, for it can be particularly pernicious. Often the feeling of being stuck is accompanied by a sense of unworthiness, a belief that one does not deserve freedom, or that one has somehow caused one's own imprisonment through past mistakes or failures. This sense of unworthiness is itself a state of consciousness, and like all states, it can be exchanged for another. You need not justify your desire for freedom. You need not earn the right to live the life you wish to live. Freedom is your natural inheritance. It is the fundamental reality of your being. To claim it, you need only assume it as yours. In the scripture we read, your Father has pleased to give you the kingdom. The kingdom, the realm of infinite possibility, of complete freedom, is already yours. It has already been given to you. Your task is not to earn it, but to accept it, to assume it, to enter into it through the portal of your imagination. So tonight, as you lie down to sleep, let go of all thoughts on worthiness. Release all beliefs that you must somehow qualify for the freedom you desire. Instead, assume the feeling of already being the person you wish to be, already living the life you wish to live, already possessing the freedom you seek. For in the realm of consciousness, in the realm of the real, there is no process of becoming. There is only being. You do not become free. You recognize the freedom that has always been yours. You do not achieve the fulfillment of your desires. You awaken to the fulfillment that has always existed within you. This is the great mystery to which all spiritual teachings point. What you are seeking, you already are. What you desire to possess, you already possess. The journey is not one of acquisition, but of recognition. When you truly understand this, the feeling of being stuck dissolves like mist in the morning sun. For how can you be stuck when you are consciousness itself? And consciousness is unlimited. How can you be confined when your true identity is the I am, and the I am knows no restrictions? Let me share with you one more practice that can help to dissolve the feeling of being stuck. Throughout your day, whenever you catch yourself feeling limited or confined, pause and ask yourself this question: what would the feeling be like if I were now the person I desire to be? How would I see this circumstance if I were now free from all limitations? Then for just a moment, assume that feeling. Enter into it completely. Let it permeate your being. This momentary assumption, repeated throughout your day, will gradually transform your habitual state of consciousness. And as your consciousness transforms, so must your world transform. Remember the words attributed to Jesus? The truth shall make you free. But what is this truth that liberates? It is the truth of your own being, that you are pure consciousness, that you are the operant power, that the world is your consciousness pushed out. When you know this truth not merely intellectually, but through the direct experience of testing it in your own life, you will never again feel permanently stuck in any circumstance. For you will have discovered the secret of liberation. The prison that seemed to confine you was built by your own imagination. And what imagination has constructed, imagination can deconstruct. The walls that appeared so solid were made of assumptions, and assumptions can be changed. This is the freedom I offer you tonight, not freedom from certain circumstances, but freedom from the belief that circumstances have power over you. Not freedom from conditions, but freedom from the assumption that conditions can contain the infinite being that you are. Test this law of assumption. Apply it to your own feeling of being stuck. Enter fully into the state of your wish fulfilled, and observe how the universe rearranges itself to accommodate your new concept of self. For that is the promise of the law. As a man assumes, so he becomes. And know this, there is no limitation in consciousness itself. The only limitations are those you accept through your assumptions. Therefore, assume freedom, and freedom must become your experience. Assume abundance, and abundance must flow into your life. Assume love, and love must surround you. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you assume in consciousness must be made manifest in your world. The choice is yours. You can continue to assume the state of being stuck, and your experience will continue to validate that assumption. Or you can assume the state of freedom and watch as the universe conspires to make that assumption a reality. Begin tonight. As you fall asleep, enter so completely into the feeling of your wish fulfilled that the feeling of being stuck is utterly forgotten. Do this night after night and test the law for yourself. For the promise is true. If you know these things, happy are you if you do them. The practice I have outlined for you is simple, but it requires discipline and persistence. It requires that you be faithful to your assumption, even when all the evidence of your senses contradicts it. But the rewards of this faithfulness are beyond measure. For in assuming the state of freedom, you are not merely changing your circumstances, you are awakening to the truth of your being. You are recognizing the divine power that has been yours from the beginning. This recognition is the true meaning of salvation, not salvation from an external threat, but salvation from the limited concept of self that has kept you bound to unwanted conditions. It is awakening to the truth that sets you free. So tonight, as you leave this place, carry with you this knowledge. The feeling of being stuck is not your natural state. It is an assumed condition. And what has been assumed can be relinquished. Freedom is your birthright, your natural inheritance, the fundamental reality of your being. Claim it through the divine art of assumption, and watch as the prison walls that seem so solid dissolve like shadows in the light of your own awakened consciousness. For you are not a prisoner unless you believe yourself to be one. You are not stuck unless you assume yourself to be stuck. You are free eternally, completely free when you awaken to the truth of your own infinite being. Begin the practice tonight. Enter the state of freedom through the portal of your imagination. Feel it with all the intensity you can muster. And know that as you assume this state, as you make it real in your consciousness, it must become real in your experience. For that is the law. That is the promise. That is the truth that sets you free. Remember always, consciousness is the only reality, and you are consciousness. Therefore, you are the reality behind all appearances. You are the power that shapes your world. You are the freedom you seek. Go now and test this truth for yourself. For in testing it, you will discover the greatest secret of all. The key to your freedom has been in your possession all along. It is your own wonderful human imagination, the God power within you clothed in the specific forms of your assumptions. Use this power wisely. Use it lovingly. Use it to liberate yourself from all limitations. And as you experience the freedom that is your natural state, share this knowledge with others who still feel stuck, that they too might awaken to the truth of their being. For this is why we are here, not merely to seek our own liberation, but to help awaken all humanity to the glorious truth that sets everyone free. The truth that there is no power outside of consciousness. The truth that what we assume we become. The truth that freedom is not a destination to be reached, but a present reality to be recognized. So tonight, assume the state of freedom. Feel its reality. Live from it. And watch as your world transforms to reflect the new concept of self you have assumed. For that is the promise of the law. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. The renewal begins tonight in the quiet sanctuary of your own imagination. It begins with the simple but profound act of assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled. It begins with the recognition that the prison that seemed to confine you was built of assumptions, and what has been built can be dismantled. The tools are in your hands. The power is within you. The choice is yours. Choose freedom. Choose it now, not as a future possibility, but as a present reality. Feel its presence. Embody its truth. And from this new state of consciousness, watch as the universe conspires to set you free. For that is the law. That is the promise. That is the truth that liberates all who discover it and apply it in their lives. The feeling of being stuck is not your natural state. Freedom is your birthright. Claim it through the divine art of assumption, and it must become your experience. For consciousness is the only reality, and you are consciousness itself, expressing in the specific forms of your assumptions. Assume freedom, and freedom shall be yours. This is the law. This is the promise. This is the truth that sets you free.